Welcome back to the Respectfully Inspired podcast. My name is Aussie Films, and I'm your host. I like to start off every episode with my why behind the podcast, which is that I want to inspire you to invest in soul wealth. What does that mean? The way I define it is that most people measure success by wealth metrics, which are money, possessions, achievements, and status. And the goal of this podcast is to change the way you measure success to relationships and memories, which I define as soul wealth metrics. Today, I'm redoing a podcast that I did months ago. It's a topic I feel super passionately about, but I know that I can lay down the information better today. And that is, what makes a relationship valuable? I'm specifically going to focus on 3 traits that make a relationship valuable, but I'm going to tell you a little backstory about why I feel so passionately about this. And it is because of a quote that changed my life. It's a super, super common quote. I'm sure you've all heard it. And the quote goes, "You are a product of the 5 most people you surround yourself with." So if you surround yourself with unsuccessful people, you will become unsuccessful. If you surround yourself with successful people, you will become successful. This quote drastically changed my life for the good, yet there was some negative things that happened to me because of this quote, and I will also say that I believe the quote is insufficient. I believe the quote is true. You will certainly become like the people you surround yourself with, but I think it's insufficient. Let me elaborate on that. Why do I think it's insufficient? Because when you hear that quote, you are the product of the 5 most people you surround yourself with, what you think to yourself is, I have to surround myself with more successful people. But then if you don't know how you define a successful person, so let's say like me, when I heard the quote, I was in college. I was really into entrepreneurship. I was really into YouTube and podcasting. Eventually I would become into that. But when I heard the quote, I was in a fraternity and I was surrounded by people who drank alcohol and smoked weed and did drugs. So my thought was, okay, I need to hang out with less of these people and hang out with more of these entrepreneurial make money people. And while overall that was a hugely beneficial decision to move in that direction, in some sense it was a misalignment, because the thought was successful people are people who make more money. And as you've heard, and as I will preach to you, and you can go find interviews of many, many rich people saying this, is money doesn't bring you happiness. So if you define successful people as people who are more ambitious in making money, it's a partial solution, I feel, is the case, because money isn't everything. But then I don't want to harp on the point of money. I'm harping on the point of how you define successful relationships, because it's very easy to get led astray. So for example, I surrounded myself with people who are obsessed with work, and I love work. I love my job. I love this podcast more than anything. But if you become obsessed with work, you become like Ebenezer Scrooge. You begin to lack in your relationships. You begin to prioritize work over the people you love. So I guess I think the quote is insufficient because it doesn't explain enough. And I also don't think it's true 100% of the time. So let me give you an example. You're a product of the 5 most people you surround yourself with. Let's say I'm a Christian. I believe that Jesus is the way, the truth, and life. I believe the Bible is the ultimate truth that will lead you to Jesus, and Jesus can save you for eternity. So let me pose a situation. You can talk to, let's say you're the product of the 5 most people you surround yourself with. You can be in a room with 5 billionaires. I'm with Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, Mark Zuckerberg, whatever. I'm in a room with 5 billionaires. Those are considered probably the most successful people on earth. Or I can be in a room with murderers, rapists, the scum of the earth in a prison cell. But in the prison cell, I'm preaching the word. These people who are murderers, who are rapists, who are what we call the scum of the earth, the least successful people, much less successful than my college buddies who drink alcohol and smoke weed. The least successful people, they've gotten life imprisonment, but maybe they've hit the end of the road. They want to turn a leaf, and maybe they don't even want to turn a leaf. Maybe they're just here to hear me talk about the Bible because it gets them some prison brownie points or whatever. But in one situation, I'm preaching the Bible to these 5 people, and in the other situation, I'm in a room with Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos and all these billionaires. Now, I don't know how these rooms would look because I'm not in them and I've not been in them. But what I imagine is that in the room with the billionaires, they'd be probably talking about a lot of big financial terms that I don't understand. They'd probably be obsessed with the idea of money, obsessed with the idea of work. I imagine a lot of them would not have great relationships. Maybe the only benefit of being in that room is that I would know how to make more money, and I might not even know how to make more money being in that room because they're so far ahead of me that the leagues of me to them, I might not even benefit. But what if in this room where I'm preaching the Bible to these scum of earth in prison, maybe by forcing myself to teach the Bible to them, I'm learning the true word of God at a deeper level. Maybe by seeing these scum of earth, I hate calling them scum of earth. I'm scum of earth. We've all betrayed God, but the reason I'm using the analogy scum of earth is because of the quote, you're the product of the 5 most people you surround yourself with. I want to go to the extremes. People would say that the prisoners are like on the extreme low, and they would say that these billionaires are on the extreme high. But in this hypothetical situation, if I'm preaching to these prisoners, God could work through me, I actually don't want to focus on going to heaven because I could preach the same message to the rich people and they could go to heaven. So let's ignore the ability to preach and help someone and God use you to help someone go to heaven. But let's just talk about in this circle, I might start to see why did these people suffer? What happened in their childhood? I get to learn more about the Bible as I teach them about the Bible. Maybe I get to pray. Maybe I learn more compassion. And I guess my whole point with this analogy is not that you wouldn't benefit from going in a room with billionaires, but it's the point that if you take that quote, you're the product of the 5 most people you surround yourself with, I'm giving you 2 as far opposing situations as possible. A room with billionaires and a room with horribly committing criminals in prison. But as you can see, as I just explained, I might benefit more from the room with prisoners. I don't know. I might benefit more from the room with the rich people. Now, of course, over a prolonged period of time, I'm sure I would not want my core group of friends to be the prisoners, but I think, and that is why I agree with the quote, you're a product of the 5 most people you surround yourself with. But what I think the deeper message is, and what I would go as far to say is that you're a product of the conversations you are having. I think that's a way better quote. You are a product of the conversations you are having. The reason that I can enter a prison for a small amount of time and say that I might benefit from it more than the billionaire scenario is that in that hypothetical scenario, I'm teaching them the Bible. The conversation is about the word. In the prolonged scenario, if I were just to hang out in prison cells for a year straight, I don't think I would be able to control every conversation to be about the Bible, to be so powerful. And it's the prolonged conversations. It's the same thing with the billionaires. Over a year, I'm probably going to learn more about how to make money because of the conversation. It all comes back to the conversation qualities. So while I agree the quote is true, that you're the product of the 5 most people you surround yourself with, I believe the reason it is true is because you're a product of the conversations you are having. And I think that gives people a better message, because if you might hear the message, you need to surround yourself with more successful people, and you're in college and you're like, I'm in every entrepreneurship club. I don't know how to surround myself with more successful people. Or you might feel helpless to the fact, like, where do I meet these successful people? What does a successful person even look like? And I think if you think of it as, I want to have more successful conversations, then that will benefit you. That is something that has came to me. Leave your opinions on that below. But now I want to get into what actually makes a relationship valuable. Of course, this changes person to person. It changes what your goals are. If your highest centric goal is to make money, then the way you define what makes a relationship valuable might be different. I've come up with 3 things on what makes a relationship valuable. And I think these 3 things are pretty much universal to everyone. And that's what I like about them. Of course, me as a Christian, thinking that Jesus is the ultimate truth, I believe that with all my heart, that Jesus is the ultimate truth. If I were to say an easy answer, what makes a relationship valuable, I'd just say, does this person bring me closer to Jesus? But I know that if you're a Muslim hearing this, or if you're a Buddhist hearing this, or if you're an atheist hearing this, you might be like, well, I don't believe what you believe, so I don't think that is the ultimate truth. Or I don't think that's what makes a relationship valuable because I don't believe what you believe. And that is a fair point. Although I think you're wrong, it's a fair point. So I've come up with 3 general points as to what makes a relationship valuable that can apply to anyone. And these points have changed my life. These points are from when I look back in the past and I look about people who've brought me energy, people who've brought me life, good things that happened to me. What makes a relationship valuable has come down to 3 things. The 3 things are: 1, the 3 things that make a relationship valuable are: 1, conversation quality, which we just covered; 2, are they a connector? And 3, do they bring new experiences into your life? The 3 things when I critique a relationship, and again, I don't even like to use the word critique a relationship because ultimately I should be critiquing myself. I believe you attract what you put out in most circumstances. But the 3 traits I look for in a valuable relationship are: 1, conversation quality; 2, are they a connector; 3, new experiences. So let me break these down. I'm going to go back into the conversation quality. I know we covered it a little bit, but let me get deeper with that. And there is a quote that goes along with this that I think is very, very true. I've had it on my heart, and I've found it to be true in almost all circumstances, with one caveat, which I will explain. And this is: small minds talk about people, medium minds talk about things, great minds talk about ideas. I'll say it one more time. Small minds talk about people, medium minds talk about things, great minds talk about ideas. In all my least valuable relationships, or what I would deem least valuable, the conversations were about people. They were, oh, did you hear this person slept with this person? Oh, this person did this. This person did that. When you're in an environment where people constantly talk about other people, that generally tends to drain me of energy. It tends to leave me feeling unmotivated, unfulfilled. So that's the first one. The second one is medium minds talk about things. I think that some ambitious people begin to talk about things. This is where I think the money people lie. I want to get a new car. I think I want to get a new car is better than who did Becky sleep with. Who does Becky sleep with doesn't improve my life, it doesn't improve your life, and it doesn't improve Becky's life. I want to get a new car. Well, at least it might motivate me. It might make me ambitious. Oh, my friend wants to get a new car. Should I want to get a new car? Maybe I should work harder. Maybe I should work on my business. There is some inspiration that comes out of wanting things. Small minds talk about people, medium minds talk about things, great minds talk about ideas. Ideas. I think the greatest example of this is the Bible. How are you saved? What does heaven look like? Well, here's the idea presented in the Bible, that if you believe on Jesus and you believe it in your heart, and if you believed it in your heart, then it would reflect in your actions sometimes, then you will be saved. That's an idea. It's deep. It's something you chew on for a lifetime. I found that those type of conversations give me energy. And so if you want a general format for conversation quality, I like to go with 2 things. 1, that quote, small minds talk about people, medium minds talk about things, great minds talk about ideas. And the second thing is, after you leave a conversation with someone, does the conversation leave you energized or does it leave you drained? Of course, this is not a one formula fits all, because sometimes if you want to have a strong relationship with someone, you're going to need to have hard conversations, and a hard conversation is going to leave you drained. So it's not a 100% formula fits all, but in a majority of circumstances, when you talk to someone, do you leave the conversation feeling energized, feeling motivated, feeling inspired, or do you leave the conversation feeling drained, feeling lethargic, feeling weak? That is the number one way, that quote and the energy versus drained, I think, are the best ways to tell if conversation quality is strong in a relationship. I want to put one caveat on that quote: small minds talk about people. It should be small minds talk about people negatively. I've never had any issue with talking about people positively. When I just listened to the George Jenko podcast, it inspired me so much. I'm so glad I listened to it before this podcast because it got my moods up. George Jenko is a huge inspiration of mine. I feel that he brings me closer to Christ. I feel that he is a role model for how to navigate this world as a Christian. Me saying that to you shouldn't drain my energy, shouldn't drain your energy. It's not the same as if I were to go, oh, I hate this celebrity, or this celebrity sucks. That is small minds gossip. Medium minds talk about things. Great minds talk about ideas. Number one, what makes a relationship valuable? Conversation quality. Number two, what makes a relationship valuable? Being a connector. So what does that mean? Being a connector, simply put, means, does this person bring other people into your life? Does this person, are they cliquey? Do they herd their friendships? Do they share friendships? Do they try to add value to your life? I remember when I was in high school, and I definitely like the man that I am now a lot better than the man that I was in high school, and hopefully I'll say that in the future to my current self. But when I was in high school, I remember having one group of friends. I played football. I had some friends in football, and then I had another group of friends that were through class or through soccer or whatever. And I remember thinking, oh, this kid from football would totally get along with this kid from soccer. But I would not introduce them to each other because I was worried. I had judgmental friends, and I was worried that if I introduced them to each other and they didn't like each other, it would reflect poorly on me. Now, that's partially from my own insecurity, but it's partially from the people I was hanging out with. They were judgmental. So of course I was going to worry about them judging me, bringing them together. And I have since, realizing that how valuable being a connector is, I've since realized how ingrained it is into me, to how uncomfortable I feel introducing two people, because it's like, if they don't absolutely hit it off, I messed up. So for most of my life, I refrained from introducing people. And then as I leaned into God, I leaned into the church, and, God, to Matthew 7:2, for in the same way you judge others, you will be judged, and with the measure you use, it will be measured to you. In real, genuine church environments where people genuinely know Christ, they genuinely try hard not to judge. Of course, we're not perfect. And when I started getting in these church environments, and I started being with people who made it an absolute priority not to judge, and then I finally found the freedom of connecting people. And then I got into these entrepreneurship environments where people wanted to be connected, and I would connect people. And then as I started to make it a habit in my life of connecting people, I realized that people associated me with being a connector, and they would start connecting me to people. And it's super important that if you're going to do this, it depends on how you react. If someone introduces me to someone and I am like, I act like I hate that person, or I'm rude to that person, then no one's ever going to want to introduce me to someone. So it's been the case in many circumstances where I've been introduced to podcast guests. Such a blessing. I have friends that bring podcast guests to my front doorstep. I literally get thrown in group chats. It's like, hey, I have someone for your podcast. Now, a majority of those people ended up coming on my podcast. It's been a blessing. There's been times where I didn't agree with someone that someone suggested me, where I go, I don't know if I really want this person on my podcast, but I'm not going to make it a big deal. Why did you put me in this group chat with this person? Why did you do this? Because then you're training people not to connect you with others. So no, you want to first, when you're thinking about being the trait, also with all three of these traits, I forgot to mention, with conversation quality, with being a connector and new experiences, don't just look for people with the traits. Attract them by taking up the traits yourself. You always attract people with the same, I don't want to say that. That's not true. You don't always attract people with the same traits. How do I know this? Jesus treated everyone perfectly, and he was beaten, murdered, and killed. Karma is not real. You reap what you sow is real. What you reap what you sow says is that if you have good habits, then good things will likely come from those good habits. That is not the same as karma. You don't 100%, the way you treat people 100% reflects. But in general, the traits that you have, we are tribal, we move in groups. The traits that you take up are the people you will attract. So when I'm talking about all these traits, conversation quality, being a connector, new experiences, you want to ask yourself, how do I embody those traits? Because if you embody those traits, then it will be much easier to find people with those traits. So anyways, back to being a connector. You set the standard for being a connector. If you're not open to being connected and you act rude when a friend introduces you to someone, then you are not a connector. Likewise, people only started connecting me after I was connecting others. I don't know what came first, if I connected someone or if someone connected me, but it was once I made the habit of regularly connecting other people that I now get regularly connected by other people. It's not like a keeping score thing. It just happens. And again, this whole podcast is about what makes a relationship valuable. I've gone out of my way to look for people who carry these 3 traits. A connector is a huge one. So, future Ozzy here, I just want to ask you guys for a request. If you're watching on YouTube, could you drop a comment or a like or subscribe? And if you're watching on Apple or Spotify, could you leave a 5-star review? These things really help the show get discovered. And if you help the show get discovered, then I will continue to invest in better guests, in better product, in better equipment, and just make the show overall better. If you've never been connected and you've never done connecting, or if you're just curious, what does that look like? How can I do that? 2 simple means of doing the connecting. 1, phone, text message. You just put 2 people in a group chat with yourself in it and you go, hey, this is my friend Joey. He is an expert in this area, or he's very cool. He loves to go rock climbing. Hey, Joey, this is my friend Jacob. Jacob also loves to go rock climbing, and he also has an interest in this. You guys should hit it off. Feel free to talk outside of this group chat. Now, the key with connecting is that you want to connect people who actually make sense to be friends. If you feel that 2 people have similar personalities, connect them. If you feel that 2 people might hit it off romantically, connect them. If you know that 2 people have a shared interest, connect them. You both like bike riding, great, go on a bike ride together. You both love Jesus, great, come to church with me. That leads us in our second point, which is you connect people by inviting them. Again, going back to my example in high school, I felt so scared to bring people together because I felt that it was a reflection of me and I didn't want to be judged. Now I bring people together all the time and I don't worry about it. Not because I've completely gotten over my fear of judgment. I think that I've made progress toward getting over my fear of judgment, but I don't worry about it because the people I surround myself with are like-hearted individuals. They're people who share the same values, and they're not gonna, even if they don't hit it off with the person I'm connecting them with, they're not gonna hold it against me. In fact, they'll probably thank me and be gracious about it because this is what I've looked for in my relationships, and this is what has made them valuable. So, number 1 trait, conversation quality, what makes a relationship valuable. Number 2 trait, connector, being a connector. Are you connecting others? Are they connecting me? Being a connector, what makes a relationship valuable? And number 3, new experiences. I love this one. This was such a huge breakthrough for me. What do I mean by new experiences? If you were anything like me when I was in college, you end up having the same experiences over and over and over again. So every Saturday night you go to a frat party and all your friends are getting hyped for the new frat party every Saturday night. They call it a new frat party, but the theme might change, the location might change, but it's the same experience. You get dressed up, you get drunk, you go to a party, whatever. The experience is the same. Now I know that a lot of people have had a group of friends that bring the same experience in their life. And this is part of the reason why people hate 9 to 5. Why do they hate 9 to 5? Because they do the same thing every Monday through Friday. And this is where I'm going to compare experience to supply and demand, and I'm going to use the example of money. The more dollars you have in circulation, the less the dollar is worth. The more you have of anything in circulation, the less it's worth. The more college degrees are in circulation, the less the college degree is worth. People never think about this in terms of experiences. The more Saturday nights at the bar, the less the Saturday night at the bar is worth. If your friends want to do the same thing over and over and over again, the less that same thing over and over and over again is going to become worth. So a lot of people, especially my age, I'm 22, a lot of people my age live for the weekend bar trip. Every Saturday they want to go to the bar, but that relationship inherently becomes less valuable just based on supply and demand. the more bar trips you have, the less bar trips are worth. So you want people who bring new experiences into your life. I might have had a friend for the past 5 years. So we have 5 years of friendship under our belt. But the only thing we did together was go to the bar or play video games. Whereas I have a friend who I've only been friends with for 1 year. This is actually a true story. I'll name drop him, Chris Duncan. We bring Chris Duncan. Me and Chris Duncan have gone door to door and filmed podcasts together. We've traveled to New York City together. We've traveled to Madrid, Spain together. We've gone to Bend, Oregon together. We've gone to various creator camp events together. We've had so many new experiences that with my friend that I've been friends with for 1 year, I feel closer and a deeper friendship with him than some of the people I've known for 5 to 10 years. Why? Because he's brought new experiences into my life. Supply and demand. Again, when you're looking for someone with these traits, I'm sure a lot of you are watching this podcast and you're thinking, I would love to travel more, but I don't have friends that want to travel. I would love to be more adventurous and have new experiences, but my friends don't want to do it. How do you find like-hearted friends? I use the word like-hearted instead of like-minded, because like-minded implies that you think the same, and thinking the same I don't think is nearly as important as like having the same values, morals, whatever. Like-hearted, that's why I use that. How do you find like-hearted friends? You don't find them, you attract them. You can find them. Like if I'm an entrepreneur and I want to find entrepreneur friends, I'll go to I'll invest in an entrepreneur gathering hosted by some entrepreneur I like, and I might meet other entrepreneurs. But if I don't embody the traits they're looking for, then I'm just a fan. I'm just meeting them and they're probably not going to have any interest in a relationship with me. Maybe if I express my desire to learn with them and they want to take on a mentorship role in my life, it's possible. But generally, meeting someone isn't good enough. You have to have the traits that they want to embody. So when I say someone who brings new experiences into my life and you go, how do I look for this in a relationship? What you want to ask yourself is, how do I bring new experiences into my friend's life? If I have friends that all go to the bar every Saturday and I say, guys, let's not go to the bar. Let's go on a road trip to this national park, no alcohol. And maybe you go on that road trip to the national park, no alcohol, and they're like, that was the most fun I've had in a long time. And maybe you just inspired all your friends to not drink. But maybe they're stuck to their old ways. And you have to say, okay, I'm not going to go to the bar with them, but I'm going to go on a road trip alone. And by setting that precedent of going on the road trip alone, again, you take up the traits that you want to find in other people. Maybe you meet someone on that road trip and that person becomes your best friend. Maybe you post a video about that road trip and then you attract to your Instagram other adventurous people. I talk about this theory of echolocation. Actually, I want to give credit to Max Reisinger because he's the one who told me about it. But think about a submarine. They're going through the water and they're shooting out these sonar waves. And then based on how the sonar waves bounce back to them, they know how to move forward in the water. Now, I don't know if this is the perfect analogy, but the point is, based on what you put out into the world, you will know how to find, what to find. You'll attract those things. So if you want to be an adventurous person, start going on adventures. Start letting the internet know that you're going on adventures. Again, this is all about your heart behind it. Don't let the internet know you're going on adventures because you want to be cool in other people's eyes. And of course, it's pretty hard to get rid of pride completely. I'm sure I make this mistake all the time, so I'm not criticizing. But post your adventures so that you can find other adventurous people, not so that you can look good in the eyes of your peers. Post your entrepreneurial pursuits online, not so that you can make a bunch of money, but so that you can network with other entrepreneurs. And when you find like-hearted friends, you begin to feel less lonely. You begin to feel like I'm with people who understand me. Our greatest desire is to be known and loved. So let me explain that. Why are so many famous people unhappy? Why are so many famous people unhappy? So many famous people are unhappy is because they are completely loved but unknown. What does that mean? That means that they've projected a version of themselves on the internet, and so many people come to love this version of themselves on the internet that they have become loved, but they don't feel loved because it's not the real them. So it's like, I might go on the internet and talk. Right now, I'm friggin' happy, and I only have 500 subscribers, but I might go on the internet and talk about who knows, partying. I might go on the internet and talk about partying and get an audience of 1 million people, and they think I'm the funniest person in the world, and they think it's awesome when I talk about partying, and I'm so loved based on the world's eyes. I have 1 million fans who love everything I do, but they don't know me because I don't even drink alcohol. I don't party. I'm just creating an image of what I thought you'd like. So in this case, I'm loved, but I'm not known, and therefore I still feel lonely. Now you take the opposite. Our biggest fear is to be known, but not loved. It's like getting friend zoned. Why is getting friend zoned so painful? Because you've become friends with some girl, in my case, you've become friends with some girl for so much time, and you feel that they truly know you, and that being known by them, you want their love, and then they choose not to give it to you. Our biggest fear is to be known and not loved. Why is heartbreak so talked about in every song, in every movie, in every place? Is because the greatest pain, our greatest fear is to be known and not loved. So, given everything I just explained to you, our greatest desire is to be fully known and fully loved. And where can you achieve this? I'll tell you right now, there's none other than Jesus Christ, my Lord and Savior. Oh, that's such a bar. I just dropped it on you. I don't know if y'all were expecting that. Even in the circumstance of like what I just said, with the romantic example, to be known but not loved, let's take the positive side of that. Let's take the love songs that work out. Let's take the successful marriages when you're fully known and you're loved for something. The two most common places people get their identity from is 1, their career, and 2, their romantic partner. I'll explain why I think these things are bad, but why can people go their whole life getting their identity from these two things? Because you can get a level of what I've just described from these two things. So if you find a romantic partner that knows you deeply, probably knows you better than anyone else on earth, and that romantic partner loves you, then that's the greatest feeling in the world. That's why all those happy love songs, that's why all those happy movies, to be known by someone. But I'll tell you, even in that circumstance, it's a bad place to put your identity in because 1, it's a ticking time bomb. No relationship is perfect forever. All relationships go up and down. So if you put your identity in a relationship, you're just waiting for it to go down. But whatever, let's ignore that. Even in that case, that girl can't fully know you because she can't read your thoughts like God can. So yes, that girl can know you better than anyone on earth, but there's still things where you have a dark thought. Maybe you go to the gym and you see some other attractive girl and you have a lustful thought about that other girl. You're not going to come home to your wife and be like, wife, I saw this super attractive girl at the gym and I thought about cheating on you for 5 seconds. That might be a normal thought, but it might be a normal intrusive thought, but you're not going to share it with her. And there is really no point in sharing it with her. Why would you share it with her? But that's what I mean, that even in that circumstance where your wife, who knows you better than anyone on earth and loves you, even she can't fully know you, and she also can't fully love you. Fully love is unconditional. That means that regardless of what I do, you love me the same. Now, let's take that gym example. Let's say I actually go do cheat on my wife. Is my wife's love for me going to be exactly the same if I cheated on her? No. So therefore, my wife, 1, can't fully know me, and 2, can't fully love me. It can get to a close version. The closest thing that we can experience on earth to God's love is that romantic love. That is why Jesus constantly refers to himself as our groom. We are his bride. He's not using that metaphor because he wants to marry all of us individually. He's using that metaphor because the greatest love on earth between the bride and groom is the best comparison he can make for himself and us. Although his love is greater for us because 1, he fully knows us. He knows every sinful thought we will ever have. He knows every bad thought we will ever have. And yet he still chooses to love us. He chooses to love us when we turn away from him. When we sin, we're doing the example. We're cheating on our partner. Just like You might go cheat on your wife. That is what you do when you sin. You're cheating on God, yet he still loves you. To be fully known, to be fully loved, our greatest desire, you can only get it from God. That is Jesus Christ. Now, I also want to just explain this in terms of career, because I think that's an interesting way to tie the knot on everything I'm explaining, which is, I gave the example earlier of projecting a fake personality online and then getting praise for your fake personality. People can project the real version of themselves. I'd like to tell you guys that I'm projecting the real version of myself right now. I really feel that I'm doing that. And I also believe that I'm going to have a bunch of fans one day. But if this was my identity, I could project the real version of me online, and I could get a huge following of fans that really love me for projecting the real version of me. But again, it goes back to that example. Do my fans really know me? They know what I've put out, but they don't know my innermost thoughts. What if I had a random intrusive thought? We'll use the same one. What if I had a random intrusive thought about cheating on my wife? I'm probably not going to go share that with my audience. Why would I? It makes no sense. I don't need to. My fans also aren't seeing my day-to-day. They can't know me as well as my intimate relationships. So even though I can be fully loved even though I can be loved for the real me in my career, the people in my career can't fully know me, and they also can't fully love me because, again, it's conditional. Let's say I have a whole fan base of people and they love me and they love the real version I'm putting of myself online, but then let's go say I commit a horrible hate crime. Say I say the N-word online. Now a huge portion of my fans are going to turn against me. Why? Because their love is conditional. Because their love for me changes based on what I do. And that's fine. That's how humans interact. But Christ's love is not conditional. It does not change. He loves you. He will. I just memorized this verse in Deuteronomy, which the verse in Deuteronomy says, I want to say it's Deuteronomy 8:5. I want to say it's Deuteronomy 8:5. And the verse says, think about it. In the same way a parent disciplines a child, God disciplines you for your own good. So when you're growing up and you throw a rock at your brother's head and your parents say, that's absolutely unacceptable, you're going to be put in timeout. And you might not even understand. Let's take a scenario that's even less understandable. Let's say you're Halloween. You want to devour 12 pounds of candy and your parents stop you after half a pound of candy. And you go, why would they stop me? It's Halloween. I love candy. But you don't understand the concept of being fit or being healthy, and your parent, out of your love, disciplines you, stops you from eating candy for your own good. God does the same thing. He will discipline us for our own good. So if I were to go spew hate crimes and start saying the N-word online, God will discipline me for it, but his love for me does not change. Whereas my audience, their love for me changes. They're going to start going around saying I'm a horrible person. They're going to start going around slandering my name. They're not going to think positively. They're not going to have love for me because their love is conditional. God's love is unconditional, yet he still punishes us. Deuteronomy 8:5, in the same way a parent disciplines a child, the Lord your God disciplines you for your own good. I love that. So I've gone on a fat rant this whole episode, but I think it was really good. And I just want to recap by telling you what hopefully you have learned, which is three overarching points, which are, I love the quote, you're a product of the 5 most people you surround yourself with, but I think it's insufficient. I think it's insufficient because it doesn't get to the deeper root, which the deeper root is you're a product of the conversations you're having. The second thing is what makes a relationship valuable. I think there's 3 things that make a relationship valuable, which are conversation quality, being a connector, and bringing new experiences. And then finally, everyone's desire is to be fully known and fully loved, and you can only achieve this desire with a relationship with God, whom is Jesus Christ, the Father, and the Holy Spirit. I also want to say one more thing about that quote. The product of 5 most people you surround yourself with. I made a huge mistake with that quote, which is that I started to look at people and judge them if they were worthy of my hangout. Oh, these are the frat kids. I don't drink alcohol anymore, so they're not worthy to hang out with me. Now, there's nothing wrong with preferring to, actually, I would say it's absolutely encouraged to hang out with church kids rather than frat kids. But if you look at it as someone is unworthy of your time, you build pride, and pride will destroy you. Ego will destroy you. You don't want to look at it as you're better than someone. You want to, and that again, that's why I think the quote is insufficient. You're a product of the 5 most people you surround yourself with can very easily lead to pride. Whereas I think if you say you're a product of the conversations you're having, even in this scenario, maybe I'm going to go hang out with a frat kid. I'm not going to spend all my time with frat kids because, again, that I'm going to become like them. But maybe I'm going to go hang out with a frat kid. But instead of being like, they're not worthy of my hangout, I go, how can this conversation quality be better? And so this time when I hang out with a frat kid, I know what they're going to want to talk about. They're going to want to talk about beautiful women, getting messed up, chicks, hooking up. I don't want to talk about those things. So maybe right when I meet him, I hit him with the gospel. Let's talk about Christ. And I know this probably sounds funny, but I can really make that one of the most valuable experiences of my life by having that conversation. So I think it's very important you're a product of the conversations you are having. Now, of course, you are only 50% of every conversation. If you're like me and you blabber your mouth off, then you're like 80% of every conversation, which I need to get back to that 2 ears, 1 mouth ratio. But anyways, means you should talk about 33% of the time. But anyways, conversation quality. Of course, you can't control every conversation because you're only half of every conversation, but you want to lean toward that. What makes a relationship valuable? Conversation quality, being a connector, bringing new experiences. Everyone's desire in life is to be fully known and fully loved, and you can only achieve that from God. For real, this might be one of my favorite podcasts ever. I'm just thinking about it in the moment, and I love it so much. And I love you guys so much. I really do. Anyone who takes the time to listen to me. And I love Jesus so much. And God, I just want to end this with a prayer, God. I just want to say thank you. Thank you for giving me these words. God, I know that I mess up. I don't even like to pose myself as being wise or smart, God. Anything good that I said is from what you've learned, from what you've taught me, God. And in any ways that I've led people astray, even in this podcast, I apologize for it, God. I pray that you would take my mistakes, my slip-ups, and that you would use these words to bring people to you, Jesus, so that people can experience what it's like to be fully known and fully loved, God. And I pray that you would use me in any way you see fit, God. I pray that you would take my career in any direction you want. I pray that you would take my relationships in any direction you want. And God, I know how many times I've prayed those things and done the opposite. You always say, is someone a follower of Christ because they say something, or you will know by what they do, God. And I know that you love me even when I mess up, God. And I just pray that you would align my will with yours. I pray that not your will with mine, God. I pray that you would align my will with yours. And God, I pray over every single person in the audience listening to this, God. I pray that they would ultimately come to have a relationship with you, Jesus, God. But I also just pray that you would bring blessings into your life. I pray you'd bring wisdom into their lives, God. I pray you would give them hope and joy and faith and peace, God. And I just thank you for the blessing it is to have my body, the blessing it is to take each and every breath, and the blessing it is to aim those breaths at the people listening to this podcast. God, thank you for everything. Make me more like your son, Jesus, and everything I do. I love you, God. In Jesus' name, amen.